quit my job. I'm like, I want to open a boutique. I want to be this little shop girl. I started being a shop girl and I'm like, ooh, it was such a fast process. I didn't really get to absorb it all. I was knocking on doors of boutiques. I might have a huge find one time and then it's like nil the next time. It's not like one person and one brand out of Kochi can make a big difference. But I think if there are a bunch of different people like me, absolutely,
Hi everyone, this is Annah Chakola and I'm the founder of Refash. This series is a way for us to focus on conversations with upcycling designers each week. In our inaugural episode, we have Annah Chakola, the founder of Annahmol, with us. So Annahmol is a global brand that creates apparel, jewelry, home decor, and accessories, highlighting the crafts of India using vintage reclaimed materials. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Thank you for taking the time out and doing this interview with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start from the very beginning, Anna. How did the journey of Annahmol really happen? And also, what does the word Annahmol really mean?
In terms of the journey, I mean, honestly, it's not something I could say I really thought about. When I moved to the US, I did the whole rigmarole of being, a college student there and then went into actually the nonprofit sector. But I always knew I wanted to start my own something, and over the years, I'd come back to India and would travel around and was trying to find a connection back, actually, to come back. I really started slowly by creating some work with a few different artisans around, like in Rajasthan, when I first visited Rajasthan, and it was from there that I slowly started to build and expand. The name Annahmol, that wasn't the name of the brand initially. Initially, the name of the brand was Boho Gypsy. But just over the years and as I got older, it just didn't seem to align with me. I think Annahmol, Anna is my name. Annahmol is what everyone calls me, that I grew up with and my family calls me. Yeah, so it's Anna and Mol means daughter. So it's kind of like a term of endearment. So it's coming back home was also, bringing back that name was coming full circle.
What was the first product that you created? You said that you went to Rajasthan and you created some products from there. What was was it apparel? What was the first, how did it start?
The first was, so I really love textile, in India, I would find all these vintage hand embroidered fabrics on the streets, made into really terrible tacky bags with bad hardware. So when I first started, I was just doing simple clutches with traditional textiles.
But that's really amazing. And from there, you went on to, creating more products and more product lines. And I also saw on the website that you retail at a bunch of global stores. How did that happen? So were you sort of moving back and forth, producing, just sort of creating the lines in India and taking the products overseas, or had you then moved back to India?
No, it was really only about 5 years ago that I actually moved back, pretty much put my footprint solid on the ground on Indian soil. Before that, I was dabbling back and forth. But when I first started, I was, making things here and taking it back, and I was knocking on doors of boutiques, really quite unsuccessfully, until that one time I happened to have walked into a Whole Foods. And in the US, I was meeting a friend of mine and my friend happened to be late and I was walking around one of their sections and I saw that there was some jewelry there and noticed that it was quite dated, a little bit like hippie jewelry, but the clientele wasn't typically that. So I had my quick lunch with him and I went back to my hotel room and Googled how I could maybe find a buyer's name. From there, I sent some samples and there was like a tumbleweed effect, Yeah. And then after that, I got onto a few websites that were they're all US based, where they're just kind of accepting boutique brands for wholesale for boutique owners, specifically. And through that, over the years, now I can say I'm in around 950 stores across North America.
Is it today also kind of primarily focused in terms of your audience's side, focused towards North America, or now have you found an audience now that you live here? Have you found your audience in India? How has that kind of been, and also how has that changed over the last 10 years? Because that's what you've been able to really chart as well.
Predominantly, my work was in North America, but after I moved back, I know that there is a market in India. I just didn't know how to do it, and I'm just slowly starting to explore it. So last year, the Kochi Biennale happened, and I was asked to be the curator of the Kochi Biennale shop, which was the first time they've really done something official like that, and that really helped kind of put the brand out there. But it was such a fast process. I didn't really get to absorb it all, and get out the information of the brand as much as I'd like to. But from that moment, I kind of knew that I really wanted to kind of focus on India.
I feel like there's always this, misconception in the audiences in India that, I've encountered this a little more in India, where people feel like if it's made out of reclaimed materials, then why is it so expensive? Do you get that question when you sort of bring out your products? Or
I do. Not a whole lot. I'm still trying to understand how to navigate it here nationally, and how to, because honestly, being in an upcycled space it requires a lot of education to the customer, So it's still a very target niche group of people here in India that really accept truly vintage and upcycled products. So the people that do come, I think they come very purposefully to me and to the brand, and I'm okay with the slow burn, really. Sustainability is not it's very vast, It expands into every fabric of your being if you really want to be sustainable. And even still, you can't be fully sustainable. Using a bamboo toothbrush does not make you sustainable. You might. So there's so many different ways on how you can incorporate what that means to you in your daily life. And each person is different. What's important to each person is different too.
Okay, so I want to actually jump a little back and really talk about your design process, starting from where do you sort of find your the raw materials, and now because you've been doing it for over a decade, do you have a certain set of suppliers or vendors that you can go to source your raw materials, or is it something that it's like you have a team who's doing the research on a more continuous basis? How do you find your suppliers? And also then, if we can really go into your delve a little into your design process, just if we can sort of go through that.
When it comes to sourcing and just finding the raw materials, it's all me. It's about the touch and feel. So over the years, I've, made connected and have a big, wide network of people that I work with, But I mean, as you well know, being in the upcycle space is extremely challenging, actually, because, I might have a huge find one time and then it's like nil the next time.
And then what is your design process? How do you sort of, when you pick out a material, like let's talk about, say, the Kantha jacket, what was the journey of making that jacket?
Well, first let's start with how impossibly hard it is to find authentic vintage Kantha. Because yes, you can find Kantha everywhere, but you can't find the true old ones, the ones that have that weight, the ones that have the stories, So now I've really had to cross borders to find it. And that too, I can't look through each and every one of them and see where the stains are and this and that. So that process starts once I actually get my Kantha. I kind of loosely select them and see each piece is inspected, and only then I can figure out what to do with it, So I try to create clothes in a way that can work with a lot of different body types, but even though it's like the same size, either through belting or just through the drape of the way it is. So I start with the fabric first, and with what I have and the feel of it before I start to create, because to me, structure is important, how something falls is important. So really feeling and touching the fabric is what gets me, is that first step to the creation. And whatever, and it's also very zero waste, because any fabric that's left over we use for other things. Either if I've got a nice little thing, we can use it for wall art, or we use it for smaller accessories as well. So there's never any waste when it comes to any of the vintage fabrics that we use.
Even when you talk about upcycled fashion, people think that it's just something that someone found lying somewhere and they picked it up and they made something with it. I think that there is no ecosystem to actually procure materials, and everyone has to do their own R&D, and everyone has to kind of create those connections for themselves. And it's just that is such a challenging part of creating upcycled products, as against when someone is just creating products from textiles that you can buy in a shop. I think that audiences kind of don't, because customers don't really realize the amount of work that goes into finding those materials, and also the materials that sometimes you find are you can't really do anything with. So the lack of the ecosystem is also such a huge challenge.
It's actually, and it gets even deeper, because when you go into this, say for example, I now find a guy, he's like, I've got all these saris, right? Now I want to be able to look through all of them. I don't care if it's like 10,000 saris that I want to look through, but I want to make sure that now if I have to open the saris, the price just suddenly becomes triple the amount. And or I have to buy the bulk. Okay, so then I buy the bulk, which I've done before. Half of them I can't use because it's completely ripped or whatnot, So I have this idea of creating this line of apparel, tops and dresses, and then I have to make scrunchies or hair wraps with them, because I've bought them already. So it is very challenging. But again, I also quite like that little like hunt, treasure hunt. It's quite exciting for me. But you have to be interested in it. You have to like the hunt.
Is it not difficult when you're sort of wearing so many hats, where you're going in, you're doing the sourcing for each and every textile, you're sort of you're also designing the product, you're also involved, I'm guessing, in the marketing of the products, in the actual selling of the products. How are you able to manage it all and wear so many different hats? How are you doing that?
I don't freaking know. I'm doing it. I'm just, it's a, there are people who tell me that. I'm like, so here's the deal. Like, I know what my strong suit is, right? Like, that is in creating and sourcing and keeping my creative process going, right? So, and I know what my weak point is numbers and the actual gritty business part of it, So I've now in Cochin, I have my studio where I have a team handling all that nitty gritty, so that I can kind of stick with that end,
Would you also know how much impact you've really created with your brand, in terms of how much textile you've really saved? I know you said that you're not somebody who delves into numbers, but is that a number that you would have? Or
I don't off the top of my head, but I have started kind of gathering some information. I don't have it right now to be able to give you, but because I do want to start also just for myself, kind of see where I'm at. It's not like one person and one, brand out of Kochi can make a big difference. But I think if there are a bunch of different people like me, absolutely, Uh, and so for that, actually, as I get older too, I don't want to sound all airy fairy of like, oh, I'm just this artist and I want to, just keep creating. No, like numbers are important, which is why I know it's not my strong suit, which is why, in fact, every single person, including my person who does my shipping, is an accountant.
No, but that's great, and I'll look forward to getting some information, because I think that that even though you feel like you're just one brand creating, say, an X amount of impact, but I think that just on Refash we have almost over 100 upcycling brands on our platform within India. And I feel like if we put together all the impact that each brand has been able to create, I think that there's so much, it's just exponential. And that's what it'll be interesting to see that what that impact really looks like. So I think that let's end this with the one last question, where I would ask you for what advice would you give a young entrepreneur who wants to start their sustainable business in today's landscape?
I would say I think it's important to, you know, don't just start a business because you have interest and passion about it. Try find people that you can work with in that space for a little while, and you'll understand if you really want to do it or not. But it's important that you just don't go on something based on just, oh, because I want to do it. Like, I want to be a boutique owner. I've done that too. Like, I'm right after I quit my job, I'm like, I want to open a boutique. I want to be this little shop girl. I started being a shop girl and I'm like, oh, this is a lot of work and I don't know. So yeah.
That's true. For some people, they find opportunity in that, but for some people, it could be stressful because of the limitations and saying that, okay, this is really challenging. I can't do it. So thank you so much for doing this, Anna.